After the age of 10, our brain declines, and we now know through light stimulation, we can also reverse that through neuroplasticity. And so the whole idea came with creating a peloton for your brain.
Do you take any supplements? Like I see so many biohackers taking 130, 150 pills. Do you take that much?
Do you know what, actually? I'll tell you something that was life-saving for me. Like there's constantly like two things that we see the most. It's anxiety, depression, and it's relational issues. There's these 7 stages that we all go through that invite us to either run away and repeat it or to actually go in and surrender to it. And so the first stage is
I'm thrilled today because I have my brother Pavel with NOA is in Miami actually, and we are recording from Leila's studio, not my studio. And there is an event tonight, so that's why we made it to meet and talk a bit about everything that Pavel is doing. I don't think we have time for everything, but at least a bit. Pavel, thank you for coming, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to you, to have a bit of your time, and to share a bit more of the story, your extraordinary story.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for what you're doing. I think it's so incredible. You're bringing people together in the times that people need it the most.
That's what you do. That's not what I do. I put that on paper, but you do. You bring people together.
It's like you hang up on me.
Yeah,
no, you.
You.
Honor is mine.
Yeah, honor is mine. Honestly, welcome to Miami, my city. I'm so happy to have you here. I came to your event. Was like a few months ago, or even a few months ago.
I think we've been here a few times since every couple months.
And it's always hot like it is today. It's going to rain, but we are here. So tonight you have people coming over. But the main goal of this talk is more like, what are you doing with NOA? This is like the most amazing stuff that is happening now. We see you across all social media. We see you everywhere. We see that you're going from cities to cities like a rock star. And it just came from Los Angeles overnight, red eye, and it doesn't even look like, this is being biohacker, no?
This is what true biohacking is. And this is what I think is also like living by what you practice, what you preach. And it's funny because that's what all of our tools are about, so I don't share anything that I haven't embodied and that don't have science behind it, and it has some form of validation, because I believe in the left brain dominance of our world. We got to kind of find that passion in the middle, and that's really what even NOA is about, But
this is the harder thing to do, like from the whole evolution of the species, humanity, we haven't got to that point yet. So that's your plan, to get to that point where we connect those left and right part of the brain and interconnected, like some sort of, if you were on mushroom.
Yeah, I think it's like that balanced state, right? But it's grounded. And so, because what's interesting for me is, my whole life I've been traveling the world and really answering that call. I've always had this voice inside of my heart or head, whatever we call it, that kept on telling me, there's more to life. There's more to life. This is not the answer, the way we're living in the traditional society. And this is one of the reasons why I was so unhappy. I was depressed. I had a chronic fatigue, Epstein-Barr. That's what killed my professional cycling career in the early stages. And then I put the same effort into business, and I had the same burnout again and the same overflow.
But you're an overachiever too. That's maybe like some people go in business, but they don't get burned.
Well, and that's, I think, why one thing I did do right. I committed myself that every 3 months, I'm going to keep on doing something ridiculous, something outside of my comfort zone.
An example?
Darkroom.
That's an example.
So I've done some really crazy stuff, from samurai camp to I spent a month with psychics in Brazil, Wim Hof excursion to the whole year training, which got me into breathwork. I have been blessed to do darkroom 5 times now, so 50 days.
Yeah.
And it really, it just shows you how much I was hurting and how much I wanted answers. And, as a busy entrepreneur, I still didn't feel like I was fulfilled. And even though I achieved the goal of finances and securities, it felt so empty, and it felt even worse in a lot of ways.
But why dark room and not something like that is more enjoyable? It's like, some people say like cold plunge is extreme, but dark room is way more extreme than doing cold plunges. It's not even comparable, and we're not talking about a few minutes, we're talking about days, and we're going against the circadian rhythm that is our blueprint to survive. So you put yourself in a sort of danger of survival mode that is extreme. And how it is?
Well, I think first of all, it's so the way I got to it, it was on one of those workshops that I went to. It was called Jean Melchizedek's Opening Illuminated Heart. And they were talking about these breatharians and these pranic nourished people, that there is a significant amount in the world that have been able to live freely without physical food. And that wasn't really the intriguing part for me. I thought it was ridiculous, and I didn't really believe it at first until I had an experience of that. But what was really intriguing was the peace, was that complete, nothingness. And so it took me about 5 years to clear on the wait list to make it to Thailand. And this is about 8 years ago when I went the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at that time, I was opening Orangetheory fitness locations. I was living very different life.
It's like a breakout completely from your business career, like you say, to the extreme. I'm so busy, but F it at that stage. That's crazy.
I needed peace, yeah, and everybody thought I was crazy too.
Yeah, of course,
because you're literally disconnected, right? And which, by the way, it's so crazy. Like, imagine, like, we can't imagine to be disconnected for a long period of time.
People can't be disconnected for more than 12 minutes. There was a study on that.
Wow, yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you take people, you put them. There's a study. I think this is John Hopkins. They put people in a room and they said, you're going to stay completely disconnected, no phone, no talk, nothing. You're just sitting there. 98% left before 12 minutes.
Wow.
You stay 5 days in the dark room.
Well, but it makes sense because, the biggest lesson, and we'll get to it later, that I've learned from it is this thing called process of unhooking. Yeah. Where we really have to unhook from that busy, I like to call it the overly thinking beta brainwave or high beta brainwave state dominance, because I think that's the monkey brain. That's the analyzing and just, it just won't shut up for most people, right? It keeps on going. And so it was for me. And another study I found is that 95% of our thoughts is repetition, but 80% of them are negative. So imagine if majority of us are thinking how we're not good enough and we're, ugly and fat and all of this from the superior mind, which is the software, right? To the trillions of cells, the body, the hardware. And imagine that that's what we're infusing into our health. And yet we want to be healthy. So I start questioning, and that's, by the way, my superpower in life is questions. I question everything and everyone and constantly looking to what's beyond that thing. What's beyond that?
But that's proof of high IQ. People with high IQs question everything. That's the purpose of it. You should have been a scientist by nature. You are now.
Well, and it's so funny. And my brain doesn't work like a scientist, but I work as an experimentalist. So and then it's so funny. I find a study or somebody tells me studies and I'm like, wow, that makes sense. I figured it out through process of trying things out.
Yeah. Empirical experience.
Yes.
Yeah. Your own lab rat.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and that's what we all should be, right? Yeah. And I think
people are scared about getting outside of their comfort zone. So it's scary, and ask yourself why you would do that. Not so many people are minded enough to get to that point and say, why I'm going to do that? Why I'm going to go in the dark room for 5 days or 10 days or whatever, or even 1 day or 1 hour? Why would you do that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, lesson number 1, follow the butterflies. So that has been
What is it?
so that's been my thing in life, is that whenever I have a butterflies, which means this is not like a dead fear, right? It's fear of survival.
Like love,
It's
butterflies.
Yeah, it's like a butterflies, but like in a ways that the unknown, the fear of unknown.
Yeah.
And whenever I have butterflies around someone or something, I follow the butterflies.
Oh.
And the reason why, it means there is a lesson. And it's like the mild way to tell you there is something to learn from. And so imagine the next time you have butterflies, just use the mind as a powerful tool. And by the way, mind works incredibly well with questioning and questions. It gives you answers. And unquestioned mind is the unleashed mind that then starts working against you. And that's what we see in this world. Now, I like to use my mind as a billboard. So I literally speak to my mind as a child. Please step to the side.
You speak with your voice, or you speak with your thoughts?
With my thoughts.
With your thoughts. Okay.
And I mean, you can do it with voice as well, but it's literally like, hey, brother, how you doing out there? I appreciate all of the clutter, but right now, please step to the side and I'll call you when I need you. And now, what do we want to feel? Needed. Right? And what part of us in life doesn't feel accepted or socially accepted or feels judged? Mm-hmm. It's the monkey brain, right?
Yeah, right.
So if we can make peace with the monkey mind, we start questioning and talking to it as a best friend, which is brain or ego, monkey brain. It's there for us to survive, right? But it's limited. It only knows what we've learned in the past. And it projects into the future, which is why we see the same damn thing happen over and over again.
Yeah, repeating.
Because we're just in that same brain pattern, state. And this is why breathwork's so good, light therapy. This is why exercise, right? Anywhere that we can shift up those patterns and move into that alpha, theta dominance, or gamma even, right? With the high performance states. That's what I really enjoy, and also measuring and tracking that.
Yeah, because you're into brain measurement and tracking and mapping and everything. You told me a story just before we went on studio. You're about to change the world. No, honestly, I tell you.
Well, so I call it cohesion, by the way, but it's been in my heart for about 5 years. And it's been this idea. So I used to franchise a lot of Orangetheory fitness locations all across the country. And basically I started with, very few, nobody knew what it was. It was Orangetherapy at that time. Yeah. And we brought heart rate to the masses. So heart rate group personalized training.
Before Fitbits.
Before really, I think it was the first it was too polar back then, using polar.
Yes, I do remember that, yeah.
But it never worked. It was really glitchy, the early stages. But and so later on, I opened up something called Atmosphere in Atlanta. And it was the largest yoga, fitness, meditation studio in Southeast. And that's where I started my breathwork, by the way. So I had Orangetheory on the right side and then Atmosphere on the left side. And this whole time, I had one big vision. We had a big meditation studio with ceiling stars, changing colors. It was this amazing room that ended up being most popular. And this is way before anyone. And basically, the whole time, I'm like, how do I take that room and how do I bring measures in a group? Because I truly believe we got to unite. I mean, our whole mission is to unite the world one person at a time.
Correct.
Through tools, through communities, through all of these magical ways to elevate our expression and emotions to the higher states that we came here for, right? Not the apathy, fear, and guilt.
No.
Love, joy, happiness, fun.
Yeah, that's where people find themselves, but they have to get there. Yeah.
Yes. No, and so I was like, okay, how do we bridge the gap between Peloton and Orangetheory? And so the whole idea came with creating a Peloton for your brain. So right now we've got an EEG tech that eventually will have HRV, EEG, and heart rate, so we can measure heart-brain coherence in a group connected to the light. So there's going to be two different also neurofeedback qualities, where if we hit, let's say 51% of the room hits a group flow, the room is going to switch into a purple color, for example, and the sound will go up individually based on their personalized harmony or coherence.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
so
does. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and my goal is basically to do live streaming on demand, in person, and whatever in the world. And the mission is to bring 1 million brains together at the same coherent state to create quantum leap on Earth.
Wow. I've heard about people doing that with music in the past. Was a couple of studies in that field, trying to put a complete assembly into this harmony and the same brainwave for everybody, but you're going further than that because it's more into finding your inner self and meditation at large, correct?
Yeah, because I see it's like we're all individually different and not one pattern fits all.
Yeah.
And that goes for algorithms of traditional EEG or technologies. And so the goal is that we also pair it with light stimulation.
Right.
And we have we're going for a variety of different metrics that will be simplified but understandable for everyday person. And it will also be as simple as, are you parasympathetic or sympathetic? Are you centralized? Is there a balance? Because we want people to really start understanding what these states feel like. And the goal is eventually you don't have to use any of it. It's like heart rate monitor. For me, like I used to use it, but once you know your VO2 max, you know your endurance, your threshold, you don't have to.
You don't have to. You are, I don't see you wearing any trackers as well.
Anymore.
Me, same. For years I had like everything and multiple, not anymore because you know yourself so well. Go ahead.
Well, and I'm going to say something. It's funny. So I get this asked a lot. What's the most important biohack, right?
Yeah.
And I always say it's to unhack everything you've ever known about any biohack out there, reconnect back to you, to the deepest core, and then from that connection, choose the biohacks that are here for us.
Yeah, harmony, actually.
Harmony, yes. Because at any given time, we might need better sleep if we had a bad sleep, right? We might be stressed at home.
And you cannot hack it, that it's just like it comes from the root of your functionalities in the brain. This is where you need to start.
And that goes back to questions, and for me, like some of the easiest questions are like, does it work or does it not work?
Yeah.
Does it, is it limited? Is it limitless?
Yeah. Is it a placebo or is it real backed by science? And you're putting the work there because you're tracking the feedback. So people can know that it works. It's just not like, this is the problem we have with biohacking in general, is the fact that most people are not believing in whatever. They look at the neurovisor and they go like, it seems to be fancy. With neurofeedback, you prove that you're changing the wave. You prove that variability in the brain. You prove everything. And it's the same for every single biohack modalities that are out there. You're doing a great job on that. I'm very thrilled to see what is going to happen, because at the end of the day, you're making this world better. Like if people can take session will be an hour?
30 minutes to an hour. And so it will work just like a yoga studio, right? So you're going to have a morning sessions. What's going to be fun, like especially for the morning people, like morning rituals, we're going to do like a really cute morning rituals where it's breath, movement, visualization and activations. So that way you can have the best day of your life. But we're also going to do sleep rituals.
Wow.
So towards the night, it will all be connected to the circadian rhythm, energetically, but also practically with all the practices that people will be going through. And it's super intentional. It's going to be a sacred geometry build out. It's all 100% EMF safe environment. It is going to be, no dirty electricity. There will be the air. We found this probiotic that we can infuse into the oxygen. Okay. Vitamin C showers. Like we're going into the whole detail. So it's also environmentally safe. And that it really fits into the lifestyle that we teach, or philosophy, is that, I've learned that after all of these travels and touring and learning, you get smashed. And so for me, it's like the simplicity. It's how do we go from the complex, especially in biohacking, right? It's like, where do you start for someone that just is getting started?
Right.
And so what I created is very simple model. I call it the me, we, and be. And so me is the individual consciousness. I call it the microcycles that we all have a control over, that we can change.
Right.
That is your physical health.
Yeah.
So your sleep, your diet, exercise, you know,
Sunlight
everything that goes
and
into
everything, yeah.
treating your body as a temple.
Right. Yeah.
Your mind, which is that egoic part of us, to rewire that software, right? So start thinking positively, gratitude, rewiring those neurons into a new positive
It's a long
change.
process for many people. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I think through breath work, through practices, through neurofeedback, it can be, or light therapy can be done really effectively. Then emotions, so the emotional body, traumas, really healing and understanding and accepting yourself. Because every event we go to, so many people are so damn hard on themselves. And this is, by the way, that I'm speaking to you right now, and the reason why is I used to beat myself up with sticks, especially as an athlete, right? Like if you didn't train enough, it wouldn't be good enough.
Yeah.
If you didn't do this much, this
Yeah,
or
or
that,
10,000 steps, you're the day after, you're like,
you
yeah,
just like
that's
crush
it.
yourself, right?
Yeah.
And then we go into this degenerative spiral. So there's a regenerative or degenerative spiral of life.
Right.
And that's made up of all the choices, all the actions of our thoughts, relationships, and so on. And so what I've learned is that when I am, you know, getting down on myself, it just go further and further and deeper. And so if something doesn't work,
You mean it's piling up and it's heavier and heavier and it's harder to recover?
it's harder to recover, and it's this old patriarchal way of learning. You know, like the old
Yeah.
gurus
Yeah, yeah.
and
Correct.
level 1, level 2, level
yeah,
3.
yeah.
Well, that shit needs to go because we
I
can
like that punk attitude.
How about dance when you
Yeah.
feel, you know,
Yeah.
ugly,
Or
right? How about
sing, yeah.
reversing these
Yeah,
things?
yeah.
And that's really what we're doing in our events and in our message is like, let's reverse how we're thinking, feeling, and living. And also the fourth part is the spirit body, which, you know, I spend a lot of times with the psychics in Brazil. And there's these 4 inner gifts that we all communicate with, whatever we call a divine, the realized self. It's that self that knows that highest path and always has your back. But most of us don't take time to get to know that self because we're too busy. And so when we're doing, we are in a simple term, it's like a keynote on a piano, right? You can have a high note and low note. And when you're vibrating at a density, living by just the senses, money, sex, power, just spending time in things that, you know, doesn't bring you much happiness at the end of the day, your field is dense, you're hungrier, you feel like you constantly need that, you know, back. But when you spend time on your passions, on your purpose, creativity, you spend it with good friends, where you have a great relationships, you are resonating at a higher note, which then allows you to lighten up, brighten up. And that's part of this whole cosmic machine, I call it, process.
Chasing the flow state in a way, like when the time doesn't affect anything and you have like the most memorable time of your life, but it goes super fast. So, yeah,
moving into the place of timelessness, right? Because when we're in timelessness, which happens through art and music and dance, when we have fun, that's how we refuel these emotions and mental patterns.
Right.
And that's how we connect to these higher states. And so me is the individual consciousness, and it's made up of your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual body. Nothing new, right?
No.
But for me, it's always like, okay, what does that actually mean? What these mystics are trying to tell us this whole time? And I used to run away from pain, and I used to learn through the gutter.
It's natural.
It's natural until I realized, hold on. Just like we have a biofeedback, we have a neurofeedback, we also have a universal feedback that keeps on giving us situations, people, thoughts, emotions to either keep on putting them lower into the bucket and repeat them, or to re-see them, to see it as a lesson, as a gift, and then start feeling the lightness. And this is what happened for me. At first, my life was really hard because I kept on running away from that. Yeah. But then I looked at the hard things, the hard relationships. I let go of the suffering, the pain. I accepted myself. Whatever was, it was. My life started getting easier and easier. And I started learning the same lessons through love as I used to learn through fear and pain and loss.
And hate.
And so, you know, now I have magical wife and babies and our company culture, like we have the most amazing people.
Yeah, I can tell, like when I look at your baby, and not all babies are like shining, like happiness, 200%. Like it's incredible. Your wife's same. And you're always smiling. I've never seen you with no smile. It's true. must be working. Do you think that is because you are always under the stimulation of light and sound?
Could be. I think it's practicing something called instant presence. So I tend to be as much as possible aware of my breath, body awareness in a relaxed state, to keep on coming back and asking myself, where am I? Where am I? Because it's when we lose ourselves outside in the process is when we start, forgetting. We start feeling anxious. Maybe it's from the phone. Maybe it's from notifications. Maybe it's from something that happened. But remember, every situation give us a choice to either react.
But this wisdom, Pavel, takes a lot. Like, how can you transpose that to the mother of two child, that she's single, she lives there, and does she have the time to, or does she have the energy? How are you going to be able to turn her into someone that can listen to what you have to say and teach, and then make her a better person? Because you said you want 1 million people like that. I would love to see 8 billion people like that going in that direction. Are you giving up on some people that it's too much energy and you cannot reach out to them? Or is it like, are you targeting a certain clientele that is more open to holistic approach?
No, so everyone is welcome, but that's what the quantum science says, that we need to create a leap in consciousness. Right. So basically, just like monkeys, if one monkey learns one thing, or enough monkeys, it's based on the same concept.
Right.
But let's talk about that transformation and transformation. Yeah. So in this process, I've designed a 4-step way to this, where it doesn't matter where you are, it can be applicable to anything in your life. And so the number one key is you take 1 hour or 30 minutes to an hour per day just on your own, just on yourself. I call this the process of unhooking that is cyclical.
People are capable of doing that?
What is that?
People are capable of doing that. Most of the time, they spend that half hour or an hour on their phone. So
if
you have to unhook the food.
So this is what we teach in our events, and we actually ask for 30-day commitment. That
nice.
Even if the first 15 minutes, it's okay to build that up.
Right.
But the most important thing is, as soon as you wake up, you don't go on your phone.
Nice.
Because what happens is maybe there's notification, you tense up,
stress,
you lose your breath, and you go into fight or flight.
That's it.
Right?
That's it.
So instead, we go into breath, meditation, ideally in nature, right? Maybe on the sand over here, or those of us that have amazing rituals, right? And so in that moment, though, you do this process. So you check in with yourself on a daily basis. Now, what you first do is you wake up. And what I mean by this phase, it's bringing up to the awareness those things that don't work. And this is why journaling can be great. And I do something so simple. So I'll write down the most prominent areas of my life. So I'll put my physical health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual connection.
Auto-judgment, correct?
Intuition.
Auto-evaluation.
Yes. Intuition, or it could be also, let's say, physical body. Okay. You get a blood test, right? And maybe you are high on environmental toxins, low on vitamin D. It's the first step of bringing the awareness up, waking up.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
But sometimes just do 0 to 10. And you can do this self-assessment from anywhere.
That's a good one, guys.
And 10, you're crushing it. 0,
that's good. Actually, I'm going to use it.
Yeah, and it's
I'm
easy.
not using it today, but I think it's a fantastic way to do it.
Well, and it starts the intuition. So now your intuition starts speaking and feeling. You start getting comfortable asking questions. And so that's how I start today. So first, I put the assessment: body, mind, emotion, spirit, then relationships. Then my social structures, meaning the environment I live in. Whatever.
It's not for you, you're traveling all the time.
Yeah, very different. But the easiest way to look at that is maybe career. So like, how's your career serving you today?
Yeah.
And then you can add in whatever you care, right? So like maybe it's 10 things, right? And then what I do is I'll give a number to each. I sum them up together and I divide them by the number so I can get a running average. Yeah. And so then I submit and record.
That's your pace of running. Yeah.
That way you know where you're headed.
Yeah.
Right? So first you wake up. Second, you clean up and you get rid of the old. So as you said, a mother with 2, right? So before anything happens, even if it's 10 minutes, just writing it down instead of getting anxiety about all the things that are bad, right? Off of this number, write down bullet point number 1. my career, like really hate it. Like let's spend X amount of time on career. Then my physical health, what can I do today? Let's say just one thing. Okay, I can go sleep earlier today, or I can do exercise, I don't know, burpees for 15 minutes. Anything that just makes it different, but you clean up, you're getting rid of it. If you're high on environmental toxins, sauna, right? Ozone or whatever else you're bringing in to cleanse. The third step is you power up. And this is when you go into offense, you take the charge of your own vehicle. And this is when you, for example, vitamin D supplements, if you're low on vitamin D. This is when you can bring the biohacks, right? This is when you actually can bring whatever you feel called to accelerate.
Okay.
And then the final part is resting up and repeat this cycle. So you reassess. And that reassessment, I do it once per day, once per week. So 1 day per week, I take fully off.
I like that.
No food. No phone.
Fasting complete.
Digitally, physically, completely withdraw.
That's
go
awesome.
into nature.
Wow, that's awesome.
And this is, by the way, how I don't burn out, even with this crazy schedule, because I'm really regimented when it comes to that. And I look at the past week, look at the following week, and that way, again, I take charge of my choices and consequences. Law of attraction is nothing woo-wee-wow. It's what you do, what you say, and how you show up.
Yeah.
And then once per month, I do that for 4 days.
Wow.
So generally, it's a 72-hour fast. It's also completely digital fast from.
So you take a 1 week of vacation per month.
Well, sometimes
that will make people jealous with their 2 weeks vacation.
It's as long as it's more extended than just 2 days. So it's important that you take extra, let's say Thursday till Sunday, right? And I'm busy as anyone.
Yeah.
I have 3 kids.
It's just like insane.
And these are not good enough excuses, because the question is, how bad do you want to feel good? Right. And how much are you done with the old ways?
Yeah.
And then once a year, I take 10 days in darkness and I do 15 days off. But it doesn't have to be this extreme, right? Find a place where you go recharge, go into nature, cabin.
Alone?
Ideally, the first part is alone or portion of it. Yeah. Me and my wife, we try to have that in and out because of magnetism, right? So we can actually retract back to each other. And then you're really excited, right, for one another, because it brings that refreshment. And we teach some beautiful things around relationships in general, because it's such a big piece of us. But relationship to self is one. So wake up.
It's the first one. Yeah, you cannot be happy if you're not happy with yourself. I have one question for you. Most of the psychiatrists and psychologists are saying that you should never live in the future, but you spend time during that day off to forecast your future, the week ahead. What is your take on that?
I don't know exactly how they mean it. So I would have to really understand.
I feel the scientist behind you.
Well, everything is subjective, and it's where other people.
It comes down to the thing, like live in the moment, to make a short detour on that. But you're living in what was the past week, and you forecasting the future week, which is a short period of time. Okay, it's still in the moment.
It's so here's how I look at it. It's one of the biggest gifts we have is choice and imagination.
So right.
As a species, as a mankind, nobody else has that.
No. Why? Right? We don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
At least to our knowing.
Yeah.
Now, if that's the case, we don't use it enough, and it's funny. So I had a cancer patient that came to me maybe half a year ago, and I was actually at shock. I was like, stage 4 and 30 days to live. And I was like, holy shit. I literally burst into tears that someone even thinks of me. I was like, how am I worthy of
that's for sure.
Something like that?
Yeah.
And then, and then I was just like, please, if this beautiful woman is meant to live, show me the way. What am I going to share with her? And the first thing I got was dream. When is the last time that you dreamed? And so we don't dream enough anymore in our life. We stop dreaming after we get jobs and married. And then we stop dreaming about the greater potentiality of our lives. And so I start asking her, what is the last time that you dreamed?
And not dreaming, let's be clear on that, not dreaming overnight, like daydreaming.
Correct. What are your visions?
Yeah.
Where do you want to go? And she was like, oh my gosh, like I never thought about it. It's so sad, like, right?
Yeah.
And so then she was like, I would love to go with my girlfriends on a girls' trips. And then she was like, I want to go to Tuscany. I've never been to Italy and da 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 da. And then she started getting happy and smiley and this. And I was like, oh, that's the lady I know.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, do you see this? This is called excitement. So they give you 30 days. How about you dream 5 years from now?
Yeah.
And what about 10 years from now? Now let's reverse that and we're going to go back in time. And so I truly believe that imagination and thought creation through this process and plan of action to how do we get there is the purest, most beautiful gift that we can take in these times. And we take people through this in our events where we look at the last breath you take. And so we ask people, what would make you fulfilled? Completely like, wow, I lived an amazing life. And they start imagining it, feeling it. And then we put them into 10-year, 3-year, 1 year, month, and day.
Yeah.
And then when we break it down into what do you have to do if it's 1% to 4% of your time every day? That's it. Can you commit to 1% even?
Right.
Because at the end of the year, that's 365%.
Yeah.
And really what it is, it's an accumulation, right? It's like 1 plus 1 is not 2 in this. It's exponential.
Yeah. But it's 365% of the 1% of the day. Putting that maths in.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, but that's how we get to our dreams. And so law of attraction is the accumulation of how you spend your time. And this woman has no cancer now.
What?
3 months later.
How did you?
And I don't take the credit. I mean, she did the work, right, and everything. But we went through the wake up, clean up, power up, rest up. Stage 4. And she said that she went to a test. There was nothing left in there.
So diet change, habits.
It was diet change, but we just applied this formula into every area of her life.
The power of the mind, is that so powerful? I've heard stories where people cure themselves by thinking that they are curing themselves, just like with their mind. I haven't talked to anybody. I haven't seen proof of concept, but I've heard those stories.
Well, I'll give you an example, okay? Something very, again, like grounded. So let's say that you live in Miami and you have a moldy house, right? And let's say that your relationship is really not doing well. And let's say that you hate your career. And
are you talking about me?
No. Just kidding. Do you ever want to feel like
you know about my life?
No. You're the furthest thing from that. And then let's say that you have an autoimmune issue, right? Yeah. So it's 4 different things. Yeah. And let's say that each of these, that you wake up in the morning with a full 100% willpower, vital force energy to tackle the world, right? But then you live in a mold. So let's say that's 20% down. Then you have a negative relationship. That's another 20% down. And right? So let's say that you start with only 40% of your full potential because of all of these fires in your life. So this is why what we did with her, and this works for anyone, is you first start with the obvious things, such as how are your relationships? What are your thoughts? What are your emotions? And then you start questioning them and using that process to releasing them, breathing through them, rewiring them. And that's how life starts getting easier. It's just accumulation of looking at the fires first rather than running away from them.
Right, yeah. The whole difference on what you were saying at the beginning, where you were running away from all these things. I want to jump back on that brain stimulation. So today we see that light and sound seems to take really hype in terms of brain treatment, stimulation, cures, and improvements. I know that you are a big fan of our friend Garnet and your advisor. What do you think about brain and light stimulation? Is that the future, or do you need to add some other extra infrared or frequencies or vibration or transcranial direct stimulation whatsoever, or we're just like pinpointing light and sound?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic question, and I think it really is the combination, and I also think it's the integration. But what I find really powerful is that it can really take that brain pattern off. So for example, one of the sessions that I do with Visor is I first do the dehabituation, which is the brain optimizer, and for about 5 minutes to let go of whatever's the beta, the overly analyzing thinking mind. And then I reload it with something like alpha, gamma, or another state. So I've been doing it where I play with that.
Oh, interesting.
And that's been really, really effective this way for me. I also combine breath work with it. So for me now, like in the morning, and by the way, Visor, we're coming up with all of our breathing.
Yeah, they were in the application. They had like breath work, and I've never used it because it's natural behavior, like on the thing. But it's true that it's a clever concept to add. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I understand from Garnet is that you actually then adding to it, and it's so one of the keys is that the sound is not too distracting. So that way, it's all about the light. And this is why I think one thing at a time at a different times is the answer. And I also think that there's many other ways to get there. But when you think about how fast light works, I think it's just extremely effective and instant. And I think it's just like we work out the muscles in a gym, right? And we got to have a nice longevity regimen for our physical health. I truly believe this is the brain health.
Yeah.
And we know that, we thought that after the age of 10, our brain declines. And we now know through light stimulation, we can also reverse that through neuroplasticity.
Right.
And so I think for me, it's like really crucial because at the end of the day, if you're not there in your brain.
Yeah. But it makes sense. Our eyes is part of the brain that are at the exterior of our skull. So this is where you can get the best stimulation for your brain itself. Light is life. Definitely, it's been underestimated for, I think, since the economical revolution. Now, like people are working in offices and dark room, and not the dark room you do, but dark environment. But life starts with life. The circadian rhythm that define the ultradian rhythm of ourselves. But what about the sound? Because you're a DJ, and the sound is something that you know very well.
Well, it's funny. So, I literally created like NOA Aeon is literally a combination of all of these different ancient practices like breath, meditation, sound, frequencies. And so I play with like 80 recordings. I play with different solfeggio scale.
Wow.
I do that also on a modern beat. So even while we're dancing, I reharmonize the tracks into different solfeggio scale. So we've been using that power of it. And then so for us, right, we express on a digital world. We have like an on-demand library with courses so people can do it from home. Then we do over 100 events in person. So that's kind of when we put it all together, all these tools. And before our events, we have all of these gadgets that we combine. None of them compete. So my whole thing was like, what do we actually need in today's world and that we can use on a daily basis? And that's what our e-commerce is about.
Yeah.
And so I found that you've got the light sequence. So I use white light, which is Visor, blue light, which is IO glasses. So first 20 minutes.
I've never tried that one. Yeah.
I'll have it here for you.
Yeah.
And I, especially when I travel, because we change time zones so much. So as soon as I wake up in a new time zone, I put the blue light and it helps me literally reset the circadian rhythm. I also use something called Thrive, which is a gut brain red light.
Sarah has been working on that thing for years and now finally it's on the market, but this is insane. This is great. Yeah.
Well, so we helped her come to the market and we actually recorded meditation and breath work with it.
With that?
So with the app, you have that. And it's also frequency again.
Yeah.
So what I did is I took her frequencies and I matched it with music. So now you've got a frequency of light at the same time with music and guided meditation.
Beautiful.
So this is like our light sequence. Then we've got vibroacoustic meditation. So I love even vibration with it.
Of course.
And so as you can see, I'm building like a little at-home ashram.
Yeah.
And that's what this is really for. We use also Apollo Neuro. I really believe in
that. Is insane. That I was part of the beta testing of that unit.
Amazing.
Yeah. I was so amazed by the effect of these things when I was trying to get into flow state before my workout. And I was wearing them on my calf and I was just like, this is like crazy. It's just like a small gadget. You don't even feel the vibration, but it works so well.
So well. I had a friend, I was in LA yesterday, and guy with crazy anxiety, and he was like, this is not going to work. And I was like, bro, just keep it for 24 hours and see what happens. Yeah. And so again, do you see what I'm saying? So like I literally picked none of the hoax, like things that have science that work, and created these protocol, which we actually sell this to clinics, IV clinics, to therapies, to help them actually add it on top of their services. And it's
So
been
it's more a business to business then?
it's both.
Both?
We're just now getting into business to business because people keep on asking us.
Right, yeah.
And then we teach for all of the products. So we basically produce content for each of them. So we're on BrainTab, we're on Aura, the different meditation platforms. And then, for example, we combine like methylene blue with the red light.
Yeah.
So we show people how to actually.
Seems to be the most effective way of. Can you explain our audience why methylene blue and why red lights and what does methylene blue except putting your tongue, turning it to blue?
Well, I actually truly believe it's one of the biggest things that help with my Epstein-Barr, because I used to be really tired, fatigued. I had a chronic fatigue. I was sick every 2 weeks. And so methylene blue is antioxidant, antiviral, antimicrobial. It's also serotonin inhibitor, which, when I had depression, that's crucial, getting off of any, medicines, which I never was going to do any pharmaceuticals. It's a dye, right, originally.
Yeah.
And
was used for
malaria.
Malaria, yes, yeah.
But it also photomodulates, so it activates through light.
Yeah.
It helps with memory consolidation. So we use it in our events, before events, so people can consolidate what actually happens.
Yeah,
and then we charge them with light as well.
Yeah.
And then it's what else? It's up to 30% increase in energy,
mitochondrial energy. Yes.
Which who doesn't want that from
if
a
you have
cellular?
an infection, you can take that and you get over it pretty fast. Tell me and tell our audience. Do you take any supplements? Like I see so many biohackers taking 130, 150 pills. Do you take that much?
I don't. So I do a lot of testing with my body, like what's good. I do. Well, now a little bit less, but I used to do weekly IVs. But for me, I do at least every other week, I do ozone IV. I find that to be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And it increases your NAD levels naturally.
Right.
I used to do a lot of NAD, but what I've noticed is I wasn't able to hold it. So there's that NAD.
So you had a peak, you mean? And it was.
So it would help me for like a day, and then it would be worse the next day than it was before.
Interesting.
So something I've learned through this process is you have to be able to hold it, and older we get, and more damage, harder it is.
Yeah.
So I've been using now suppository NAD with M&M, with resveratrol, because it's a slow release.
But resveratrol is like so into the like polemic, and some people say there is no studies showing that it works, and some other like. Yes, it's not better to take quercetin or those.
That's part of it too. I also like it, and I love actually
nicotinamide.
Yes, I've been taking that, and before exercise or sauna, and that actually you can actually feel the energy jumps.
Yeah.
I also love paraxanthine.
Paraxanthine, it's like it makes you tan.
No.
Yeah, paraxanthine actually increase your the way you tan, and you tan faster and safer. It's a natural anti-UVB, and so you don't get the downside of the sun, but when you get exposed to the sun, you tan faster and better. So no wonder you're dark like that.
Maybe I've been drinking too much. But no, because I've been getting rid of caffeine. I really don't like how it makes you feel.
Well, look at Devastre, how it turned out with caffeine.
Well, no comment.
No comments.
Gonna stay neutral. But what's crazy is like it's nicotine, it's caffeine, and like these things are addictive, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
Like I always tell people, like try to go without caffeine for 30 days.
Oh, it's hard.
And see what happens.
Super hard. Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's crazy because it doesn't even really make you feel good. Like I've noticed.
Yeah. There's up and down on caffeine. The same like. Caffeine reminds me the studies on creatine at the beginning was like controversy and everything. Now today we know that creatine is fantastic for the brain, for everything. And caffeine is the same. Like you have so many people, it's not good, you should avoid caffeine. But actually just the right dose of caffeine does a lot for your body and your brain. But you have to be very disciplined. It's like one coffee in the morning and you stop, you don't take any more. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I think in biohacking, we sometimes chase that higher and higher, and you just want to go higher.
Yeah.
And I get it, because especially performing, like I need my brain to be on.
But you can't because we have a state of exhaustion. And when you reach that level, you fall so fast, and then recovery, you can use all the biohacks. It's super hard to recover. And with someone like you that travels all the time, you definitely, rock stars are on cocaine and all the stimulants and drugs.
So I snort paraxantine.
That's it. But you
don't
are
drink alcohol.
That's it.
No, but what I found is like it's the counterbalance, right? So it's like getting enough choline. It's like for me, I love L-phenylalanine.
Yeah, beautiful.
That's been a really healing medicine because it keeps your serotonin levels high. Every once in a while, 5-HTP if I feel like really low. But in a different form, not the conventional. I use the actual where it's made from. Again, blinking on that. From shamans, actually, from South Africa. And what else I've been using? I mean, at periods of my life, I love ashwagandha.
Oh, this is one of the best molecule out there. You can take it before workout, after workout, before sleep, or in the morning. It's always with great benefits.
So
I take
great.
that every day. Yeah.
Me too. But I've also, it's good to weave in and out, I've noticed. And what else I've loved? I really, sometimes Rhodolia rosea. That's add-on. But I've noticed it doesn't always work like ashwagandha.
No.
So I always
Rhodolia is, ashwagandha is really slow.
And I still think like functional mushrooms are really great.
Yeah.
But they have to be really high dose and clean dose.
So the functional mushrooms are like lion's mane,
chaga, shiitake, all of the ones. Because I've noticed, I did an experiment when I was in Finland. I had one of the craziest weeks of this year. In 7 days, I did 15 events, and then half of it was at the Biohacker Summit, and then the second half was at the Natural High Healing Festival, and so it was so intense, and I literally coffee wasn't doing anything. Like at that point, you're like so exhausted that it's actually, don't even touch it because it's too much,
Sweating.
Paraxantine wasn't doing anything.
No.
But what was doing it, I just kept on taking liquid high dose of functional mushrooms, and they were all each specific. And
Cycle does that, huh? Liquid.
They do. I think they're great. This was another brand in Europe, but literally, I kid you not, I like survived on mushrooms and not the ones you're thinking.
Right? That's it. Probably can take both. But have you read that book, Healing Adaptogenes? It's all about mushrooms, and it's a beautiful book. Like explains all these mushrooms. The big power. Any peptides?
I have weave in and out. It's funny because that's one of those things that also are split, right? There's a
really
medical world really against, and then like biohackers really for. I've done it like 3 months in a row, and I can't tell really that I had a difference. I think falling asleep and deeper sleep.
What was it?
I had a whole blend, and they're so hard to remember. Like I like
CGC 1295,
and I did all the regular, BPC 157, in something.
Imamorelin.
That one, I think that was one for sleep, and a lot more, injecting it.
It's a pain to do that. It's just like, I get there.
But you know what? Actually, I'll tell you something that was life-saving for me. So whenever my Epstein-Barr would activate or my immune system would be bad, I found this compounding echinacea in a super high dose where you inject it.
Oh.
It comes from Germany.
Wow.
German like apotheke.
Yes, apotheker.
I can see the signs.
Alles klar, yes.
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag.
Yes. We just switch, and it's not AI.
That's it. It's true.
Well, but so that little
I didn't know you could do that.
So my sports doctor. So thankfully, as being an athlete, I was a professional athlete, so we had a really good access to sports doctors, and so that's where I started it. And then I forgot about it, and then recently I got exposed to mold, and then my Epstein-Barr was reactivated, and I had like a horrible few months just recovering. And basically, I remember this. found my little jars,
No way.
did it like for 4 or 5 days, and it builds immune system like nothing
I can
else.
see it works very well. Sprays or pills or
The
what?
thing is, though, if I do spray anything conventional, doesn't anything.
Work.
Even if I triple the dose,
No?
like
Wow.
maybe when you're healthy can help, but this thing, because it's like a full dose, like you're getting double this dose of peptides if and incredible, especially if you guys have autoimmune stuff to help that immune system. Highly recommend, and you can get it through the online pharmacies.
Illegal.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, in Germany you can just buy it. Any that's good.
I want to ask Pavel one thing. Like all these peptides and everything, you literally said several times that you were exposed to mold. It's a big thing today to hear people exposed to mold, but honestly, most people don't even know what it is. Can you explain what is an exposure to mold, and how do you know that you've been exposed to mold?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you see like mold on your wall, and is that, oh, I'm exposed to mold? Or can you please share your knowledge on that?
So just to tell you how crazy this was, our house is completely biohackers approved.
Of course.
From the water charged with reverse osmosis, remineralized to diamonds that are recharging the energy.
This guy is 85, by the way.
It's insane. We've got purified air. We've got probiotics in the air. We've got paint that's clean, but also EMF shielding. There's no smart meter. It's all analog. Literally, think about the entire house is just like the biohacker's paradise. NASA studied plants to help the air, things like that. Now, long story short, we left for 2 months to go around the world for tour, and our AC, stopped working.
Yeah, and the water stays there.
We live in Alabama. Yeah. And so by the time we come back, the air was moving, but it was moist. It was literally like 92 or 80 plus, percent the humidity. Yeah. And so we get in there, we're like, shoot, like, what do we do, right? So I call the AC guys and everything fine. Now, 6 hours later, we all get ill. Like, I'm talking baby got ill, Fairy got ill, my kids got ill, literally completely like sore throat. And we were like, what is happening? Did we catch it on a plane or something? Yeah. And so then we just like intuitively were like, there's something is not right. And so we get tested at home. So, and there's mold. So we tested it so that showed the first case. In the air. Yeah. Okay. Which, by the way, there's different layers to this, right? So there's a mold spores, but then you've got when you see it, that's when you got to run away from it.
But you can see it in your fridge. Like if you have some fruits or a vegetable that turns to be like rotten and you have this mold, are you exposed to mold because of that?
You definitely don't want to eat it. So no matter what, don't touch the food. Yeah. And I don't think that environment is too small for it. But and by the way, we have an ozone at home. Like we literally ozonate the house. Yeah. Like, but the thing is, once you have the mold visible and it's actually growing, that's what's really dangerous, because then it's not just in the air; it's also going through all of the wood and all and in the house. Yeah. So we couldn't find the source. We just couldn't find it, and then finally, it's in the AC. So literally at the AC where it's blowing everywhere, there's a black mold.
Yeah, because the drip of the water from the condenser. Yes. I got that.
So we were like insane. So I felt ill extremely. I tested again immediately, high on Epstein-Barr. It literally took us a while to recover. And what we had to do is, we had to completely remediate it. We had to put ozone everywhere. We had to find the solution. We even had to cut through our walls. And it was a horrible process.
And physically, how do you recover for that? What do you take to get to get over it?
So thankfully we know how to detox fast. So it was a lot of sauna. We did a lot of infrared sauna with like charcoal and bentonite and all of the things to help you also cleanse it. High dose of vitamin C, IVs, high dose of glutathione. Of course. ALA helped really a lot with the brain. Of course, then a lot of stuff just like L-carnitine, anything that we could do to help the brain. Then we did NAD as well because our NADs were low. And then we got on a liver protocol because it really gets hit in liver. So I used the Quicksilver liver tonic.
That works very well.
That works
they
very
went
well.
through the certification program we have super fast. They have so much science behind it.
Yes. And we actually used the detox box from Dr. Jill as well.
Yeah.
And so that's and then movement, but it takes a while.
It takes a while, huh? Yeah. It's not like it's interesting because I'm a biologist by trade, not by trade, by studies, but I've seen mold and I've been cultivating mold on plates to see how they go and how many are they, counting and everything. And recently my wife opened like a bag of vegetable and it was green and she dropped it on the floor and you see like, and I go like, you're going to get sick. Yeah.
But see, one thing that I want to notice, and this is what I did. So I could have gone from like what is happening to us, right? And let me tell you something. Anytime anything that reflects in your life, what's moldy on the inside is moldy on the outside, right? So there's things that even those type of experiences, we view it as a gift, as something that we're not processing, something so I always look at like, what does mold represent? Right? There's some form of dirt.
Yeah.
And we live in a moldy society in general.
Yeah.
And so it's like we see so much mold because there's so much mold on the inside and the things we have to work through.
Yeah.
And so this just gives you an example of how we could panic and freak out and be really, unhappy about it. And we were at first. It was not easy. But we had a choice to react, get lost in the louche, as I call it, the drama.
Yeah.
Or we can proact, go back to breath, relax, and then speak to my wife as to what we're going to do to change it.
Take a plan,
and what in our life we're doing so we never repeat it, even more so.
Beautiful.
And this is how we work with my wife, where these things, whenever we have financial, issues or whenever we're going to a new project and I used to never have someone to be able to stand by and like go through this in this magical way. And now, I have this beautiful support.
So you have the exponential strength of being two instead of being alone, like the entrepreneur you were before.
Yeah.
More capabilities. We always say, like you make a mistake, you learn a lesson, and if you repeat that mistake several times, then you're stupid.
Well, it's like they're there for a reason, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and what's interesting, like even in our events, like there's constantly like two things that we see the most. It's anxiety, depression, people, and it's relational issues. And what I've learned about relationships, it's so interesting because we have relationship to us, to ourselves, to membership in a yoga studio, right, or companies. And I've learned that there's these 7 stages that we all go through that invite us to either run away and repeat it or to actually go in and surrender through it. And so the first stage is this romance. We're excited, right? This is the butterflies.
The high.
You're excited about new supplement, new company, new partner. The second stage is commitment. You commit, girlfriend, boyfriend. You file for new LLC. You sign up for yoga membership, right? There's a grounding.
Yeah.
The third phase is broken vase. This is where you start seeing things you did not see at the beginning. So maybe the company is underfunded. Maybe that boyfriend, girlfriend acts just like their mother. You're like, where does this come from?
Right.
And maybe the yoga studio has no shower, so you can go to work after.
Yeah.
So things you didn't see all of a sudden start popping up. Now, the fourth stage is ordeal. And I'm going to sing this. Should I stay or should I go?
I love it.
And this is the never-ending highs and lows and up and downs.
And the should I stay or should I go is like some people say, like if you stay, it's resilience and you build resilience, and most people give up and go. So what's your take on that?
Well, so this can be, let's say that you're an attorney and for 25 years you're being an attorney and nothing wrong with that. But if it's not your true heart's desire, you're doing it just for security, right? And you're doing it for whatever the means.
Yeah.
But your heart is there to follow, right? There's so much more when we do that. And so after 25 years, you get tired. You have no more energy to keep on being who you're not at your greatest expression. And so it moves you into the 5th stage, which is collapse. This is where most people make it or break it. And this is where you've just had enough. And the invitation to the 6th stage is surrender. This is when for the first time it starts becoming something greater than us. And it's no longer about what you do wrong, what you did this, you did that.
Yeah.
It's about back at you. It's about what am I learning through this? What is the gift that I'm receiving?
Don't try to find.
And that's about everything. That's mold. We mind flip. Everything can be flipped.
Yeah,
as hard as it might seem.
Yeah, there is no. It's all temporary. Everything in life. Yeah.
And so that way you can go into the seventh stage, which is what I call the true love, true expression that doesn't define, highs, lows. It's coming from the place of me into the we. And it's seeing ourselves as brother, as sister, as like, how do we reflect the best of one another through whatever expression and relationships that we have. And this is when you have an invitation to true growth, true relationship with anything.
So is that sense of wholeness, or mainly the sense of oneness in the society? Yeah.
Oneness. Ownership, taking charge. Yeah. And this is where we thrive at the core. And this is, by the way, way easier for us than to be somebody that we're not.
Absolutely.
But through all these neural pathways and habits that we have formed over the period of time and life, and also inherited by societies and families, we really need to crack through. And this is what I call the system reset. We need to reset back to baseline. Yeah. And it's just like a computer, right? When you hold the power button, for 2 or more seconds, it resets.
Reset. That's the name of your event.
That's literally the name of the event.
Yeah.
And it's just like a computer. You got to connect to the internet to download new software or new apps.
Right.
But we are connecting to the internet. And that's changing the brainwaves. That's changing the states. And it's also, if you have, let's say, hundreds of apps that you're not using, what does it do? Taking up your CPU, right?
Yeah.
So we hold the button, we exit out, and it's exactly what we're doing. Yeah. So we're exiting it out, we're taking it clear, we're taking charge, and it's nothing whoopie wow, it's nothing hard, nothing easy either. Like, you gotta work it, right? But it is possible. And we are the examples of that. It is possible to experience true love and to experience true union. And more of us will do this, more of us we meet, then it will inspire others.
Right, yeah.
It will be weird not to be, doing your morning routines. Correct. It will be weird not to be biohacking, right? It's like, what do you mean you don't have your morning routine?
Yeah, and teach at least 5 people around you on that, so you can get there. Pavel, you're so inspiring. You're just like, I can listen to you. You have your event today here in Miami.
2 hours.
In 2 hours. Follow what he's doing, because he's coming to so many cities. I'm pretty sure that he's going to be very close to you guys across the world, wherever you are, and go to one of these events. Honestly, it's life-changing. And speak to Pavel is accessible, and when you spend 10 minutes with him, you're so in love with him. It's just like you can't. He's the hypest drug on this planet. Like, you get addicted right away. Thank you, Pavel. It was a great pleasure having you here. I'm so glad we made it here in Miami. You have 2 hours to get ready. Good luck with the event tonight. We're going to support that in the magazine as well. And noaaeon.com.
You got it. Right. And then if you guys want to, I would love to offer a free on-demand library. So we have over 80 hours of recording.
Wow.
That is from breath, meditation, morning routine, sleep routine. And then, of course, we're doing tons of events. That's on Eventbrite.
Yeah.
And then we can also offer discount if anybody would like any of our consciousness expansion tools.
Marketplace. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Pavel.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.